everybody, and welcome to Cosmic Potato, the Super Fan Talk podcast. My name is Sean Ray, and I'll remind you that I can be brown, I can be blue, I can be violet sky, but I'm not. I'm Sean. Joining me tonight in the historic Cosmic Potato Studios, we have Rick. How are you, sir?
How long can you hold your breath?
You get a trivia question, sir.
Bring it.
What 1953 horror film was remade in 2005 with Paris Hilton in the lead role?
House of Wax. Oh,
yes, that is correct. That is correct.
Bet you didn't think I'd get that one, did you?
No, I didn't. Scott is here as well. How are you, sir?
I kick ass for the Lord.
What film series took off at the box office after the concept couldn't land as an unproduced episode of The X-Files?
Took off, couldn't land. X-Files. I don't know.
Final Destination.
Can we steal? Do we get to steal?
No, you'll get a question.
I want to get the ones that I know.
I mean, I stole the last show that we recorded.
Yeah, you can steal if you want to, but nobody said steal.
I didn't know.
Chris, how's it going,
give
sir?
him the point anyway.
Hey, everything's great.
Right.
Well, I'm not even keeping score. Chris, A Quiet Place was a very successful film a few years ago. It was originally meant to be a sequel to what?
War of the Worlds. Porgies. I don't know.
John, do you want to steal?
Let me think. A Quiet Place, a sequel. I mean, War of the Worlds makes sense, but no, I don't know.
It's Cloverfield.
You know, I was about to say that as a joke because the monsters look sort of like that, but
it's Cloverfield. Virginia, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Gracing us for the first time in a long time.
Yay.
Annabelle made her debut in what film?
I don't know a lot of her films, but I watched The Conjuring last night, so that's what I'm going to go with.
It was The Conjuring.
Yes.
All right. And John, how are you, sir?
I'm well.
What is the name of the demon in The Exorcist?
Krista Steele.
The name of the demon in The Exorcist.
Knows that.
Let's go with classic Mephistopheles.
No, they couldn't afford Mephistopheles. Chris?
Pazuzu.
It was Pazuzu, yes.
Wow.
All right. Before we get into our topic, we're going to talk about horror movies tonight. We're going to talk about our favorite horror movies that came out before the year 2000. But before we do, let's have a little bit of a Halloween discussion. Scott and Rick were both here last week, so I'll ask the people that weren't here. Chris,
hi.
What Halloween costume do you remember being your favorite when you were a kid, or when you were an adult?
No, I've already told this. I've already told the story on the Quantum Leap podcast. So Scott, you've already heard this. You can punch out. When I was a kid, we used to get these costumes that came in a cardboard box. And they had just like a little smock that you could tie around whatever you were wearing that tied in the back. And then this plastic mask that had like the most thin, brittle plastic and the thinnest rubber band. And you could stick your tongue through the mouth slot.
And it had like a picture of what you were dressed as on the front.
Right, exactly. And you would cut your tongue. And I was thrilled to pieces one year when I was Sigmund the Sea Monster. That to this day remains my very favorite Halloween costume, up to and including my more recent Marty McFly cosplay.
Okay. John, what about you?
That's a tough one. I didn't really dress up a lot for Halloween when I was a kid. I guess the first one I remember kind of being excited about, we weren't kids, so we were actually It was Halim and I. We had just moved to Memphis, and we went to a party as Aladdin and Jasmine.
Oh, okay.
We rocked it.
Aw.
It looked good.
That's sweet.
All
Yeah.
right. Virginia, what about you?
I've been sitting here thinking, and I couldn't tell you a single Halloween costume I had growing up. I know I dressed up for Halloween. I took my little brothers and sisters around to get candy. Could not tell you what I dressed up as, sincerely. So I have no idea.
All right.
Can I say another one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I thought of one that when I was in undergrad, my then girlfriend at the time, she's the one that made my Noid costume. Tune in for last week's show to hear the Noid story. And one year we got this. I got this idea. I had a 3-piece suit, and she did my face up as a skull. And this is hard for y'all to picture, but I used to have a lot of hair, and it was very thin and it was very long. And so we teased my hair up in like this big poof and hairsprayed it and stuff, and did my face as a skull. And I had a briefcase and a suit, and I was Death of a Salesman.
Nice.
All right.
Good.
Another question for everybody. What kind of candy did you like getting for Halloween the best, and what do you give out now? Because
Mini candy bars.
if anybody
Same
says
answer.
you give out toothbrushes and stuff, I'm gonna hang
Oh,
up.
hell no. That's
No.
evil.
What'd you say, John?
The mini candy bars, mini actual candy bars, little, fun size.
Yep. Fun
Snick,
size.
Snickers,
Mhm.
Milky Ways, chocolate bars.
Are you looking
Baby
for
Ruths.
specific candies, Sean, or types of candy?
Either or.
Okay,
Yeah.
just curious.
Reese's
Reese's
Was
are the best.
and is the ultimate candy. And you know what? I think Reese's peanut butter cups are one of the few candies that have not significantly shrunk over the years.
They have shrunk actually, especially the individually wrapped ones. Because when you open them up, they're like that. They're like that big. And
But have you seen the 5-pound Reese's cup you can get?
Yeah, that's too. That I don't like the.
That's insane.
I don't like
awesome.
those, and the other one that they give out, the big cups. I don't like those because it throws the chocolate to peanut butter ratio off.
Have y'all seen
A regular Reese cup is the perfect chocolate to peanut butter ratio. When you start adding peanut butter, but you're not adding chocolate, it's not. I don't like it.
You are.
Have you
so
seen the
wrong.
only peanut butter Reese's peanut butter cup that it has
I've
the peanut
seen
butter
it.
shell as well as the peanut butter inside it?
Yeah, it's
buy
too
a-
much peanut butter.
Just buy a
It's-
jar of Jif and a spoon.
Yeah, just take a
You
spoonful.
got to have the
of-
chocolate to balance it out.
They don't taste the same. Reese's peanut butter does not taste like regular peanut butter.
No, it
peanut
does
butter.
not.
No, it's just peanut butter that's based on sugar. I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I get cravings. I get cravings for candy that I'm not entirely a fan of. Sometimes, especially around Halloween, you get a craving for something and then you just eat a couple of pieces and you'll be done with it. But every once in a while, I get a craving for circus peanuts,
No.
and I'll eat a couple
No.
of them, and then I'll be like, okay, I'm done with the circus peanuts now. I don't know
Yeah.
why. I bought
I don't
such a
think
big
I've
bag of-
ever worked up the courage to eat one of those things.
It's exactly as you would imagine.
Don't
One-
don't
Gross.
buy
Two
into
of 'em are
don't buy
actually
into
pretty
the hate, Rick. Circus peanuts are tasty.
Yeah,
They're
I-
marshmallows.
I
It's
like
just
them
like
if you just
marshmallows.
have a couple of them, but
I imagine they're kind of like the marshmallows in Lucky Charms, just bigger.
No, they're
not
soft.
really.
Yeah, they're
They're,
softer.
they're more stiff than like the marshmallows you'd buy in a bag of marshmallows, but they're definitely softer than Lucky Charms marshmallows.
Okay.
They're marshmallows if you were to compress a marshmallow. That's basically
Yeah.
what they are.
Okay.
but not compress it to the point where it's crunchy like you get in the cereals.
Yeah, no. If you took a marshmallow in your hand and you just smushed it as tight as you can get it, that's a circus peanut.
Okay. Now,
And added some orange of ambiguous origin.
Some orange coloring, and I think that there's like a bit of banana flavoring to it, but not like
Oh God.
Oh,
That's worse
maybe
than
that's what I
worse.
don't like about it.
not to the point where they're gonna say banana flavored, but you're gonna pick
That-
up a bit
That
of it.
candy banana where we all accept that it's banana, but it tastes nothing
It
like
doesn't
banana.
taste anything like banana. Yeah.
Little
Okay,
bit.
I
Um,
have a question for everybody. Where does everyone stand on candy corn?
I like candy corn. I actually had some candy corn. I like candy corn in small doses. I don't eat it. I just eat it around Halloween, really. But I had some this week, and we actually you ever take a bowl and put some candy corn in a bowl and mix some peanuts in there with it? That's some good stuff. That tastes just like a Baby Ruth.
I can see that.
I
like-
am not a big eater of candy.
Not a Baby
that's
Ruth,
not
a payday.
chocolate.
Excuse me. It tastes just like a payday.
Candy corn, I'll eat it if it's around. I have never knowingly bought any, so it's not like something that we'll have at the house. But if I have access to candy corn, I might nibble on some. I don't think it's terrible. I think there are far worse things in the world than candy corn.
Yeah.
Wax lips, why those exist, I don't know. Never did.
Any of your
Um,
wax-based
like you've got
candy
big-
just
big lips.
probably shouldn't
Yeah.
be in production anymore.
Yeah, I don't
Like the
understand wax
little
candy.
cola bottles.
Or the little
Yeah, what are
harmonica,
those
the orange-
about?
You're not. I mean, you're not supposed to eat it. You're supposed to chew it. It's like gum.
But it turns into
still-
just this crumbly mass of nastiness in your mouth. I remember asking my mom, "What am I supposed to do with this?" She's like, "Just to chew it." And then I'd be like, "Bleh." It's like eating a candle.
Yeah.
I will eat candy corn if it is coming in a mix of other stuff, like if it's your standard autumn mix of mellow cream candies. So you get candy corn, you get I don't know if they still call it Indian corn. They probably call it chocolate candy corn now.
Yeah, I don't like those.
But
Oh, yeah.
you'll get the two varieties of candy corn, and then the little pumpkin shaped.
Yeah.
I was gonna say the pumpkins are good.
Those
I
are
bought-
basic. I mean, they basically taste like candy corn to me.
They,
I mean,
they do, but I
little
like it's a more pleasing. You get a more fulfilling bite out of it, I guess.
now they
Yeah.
have pumpkin spice candy corn.
Of course.
Of
they do.
course.
No,
Of course.
get out of here with that. I did a couple weeks ago at the store. I bought a bag of nothing but those mellow cream pumpkins.
Mhm.
I put that in a nice little Tupperware container, and if I'm passing through the kitchen, I'll just grab one and pop one in. But you don't want to overdo it because it's essentially just compacted sugar with some color. There's not a whole lot more to it than that. So you want to go easy on it, or else you're going to put yourself into some kind of shock.
I feel like Smarties and Dum Dums and Blow Pops only exist around Halloween. Like, if not for Halloween, they would have been out of business in like the 30s.
What was that, Chris? What's
Oh,
going
The
on?
Smarties.
spider is like crawling on my table. Now it just whoa. Hang on,
What is
gotta
it?
step on it. Now it's a dead spider.
Oh, spider.
Nice.
It's very bold spider, and then it realized that I noticed it, and then it panicked. So I have
Rightly
to
so.
go to the nurse
Just
to clean up
don't
the
know
dead
how to
spider.
deal with insects. I tell you.
It's kind of like the little candies.
dealt
That
with
are
it.
like it's kind of like a big wad of peanut butter, and they're always wrapped in either an orange or a
Oh,
yellow wrapper.
yeah.
Anything wrapped in wax paper is just goes right in the trash. That was never an option.
Mhm.
Or Bita honeys. Oh God, all these things are.
We used to get this
they're
candy.
against the Geneva Convention.
I was reminded this week of this candy that we used to have. I think it was called Mr. Bones or something like that. And it was a coffin. You
Mhm.
open the coffin up,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's filled with these
Candy
little
bones.
candies. And
Candy
you,
But that was
bones.
like Smarties. That was
it
like
was
Sweet
a it was
Tarts.
a puzzle. You could actually
Yeah.
put them
Yeah.
together, and it was a skeleton. But yeah, we never did that. We just opened it up and just popped them in our mouth.
I had no idea it
But
was a puzzle that you could put together. I just
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All the bones fit together.
I never got to weigh in on candy corn. Hello.
Go ahead.
Casual fan, like Rick. I like them. They're kind of like
Long-time caller,
in-laws.
first-time listener.
I'm not necessarily, I like them when I see them, but I don't necessarily miss them when they're gone.
Yeah, and
So
I
here's
like
one.
them. I'll usually buy like what Scott was talking about, the mix of stuff, like the mellow cream mix. I'll buy like one bag on October 1st, and then I'm like, That's it. That's all I'm buying for the rest of however long. When it's
Right.
gone, it's gone.
Are blow pops worth the effort?
I think so.
I thought so when I was a kid, but I don't really chew gum now, so
I always
Probably
thought
not.
that when you got the gum off and you had the mixture of the gum just being chewed with the shards of sweet lollipop that were still attached,
Yeah.
that was the best part.
When you got the thin candy coating,
Yeah,
and
the
you can
just a
crunch.
tiny bit left
Yeah.
to just give it like a little bit of flavor.
Mhm.
I'd
And-
much rather have a Tootsie Pop than a blow
See,
pop.
no, see, I was gonna say now
No.
Tootsie Pops are not worth the trouble.
No, absolutely
I've
not.
Never liked Tootsie Roll.
Not a fan.
And Tootsie Pops are way too much work to get to more Tootsie Roll.
I have had an aversion to blow pops ever since one of them took out a tooth.
Oh my
Mm.
God.
You and your face again, Scott.
Well,
No, it's-
I don't chew gum anymore because I was chewing some gum.
Maybe you
about,
need some more oranges. You know, the scurvy can be a real problem.
I was chewing some gum about 10 or 15 years ago, and it pulled a filling just straight out of my tooth. Just popped
Ever
right
since
out.
I quit smoking 20 years ago, I chew a lot of gum.
In my defense, it was a baby tooth. Let's just say that.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, when I was a kid, I probably was like 10 or 11. I got this idea after Halloween, the day after Halloween, because it was like, you know, this is candy you are allowed to eat without any sort of restraint whatsoever. And I got the idea that a mouthful of chocolate would be the best thing ever. And to this day, it still is. I like opened like 4 Reese's cups and, you know, and I was just like, "Grub, grub." And I was like, this is everything I hoped it would be.
Can I ask a controversial question? Am I
Go ahead.
alone on the panel in not liking Reese's peanut butter cups or Reese's Pieces or anything Reese's?
Seems like you are. Are you
I
not a
can't-
fan of peanut butter?
I can't join you.
I like
there.
peanut butter by itself. I don't like it in stuff. And I don't think that the Reese's peanut butter is really, we discussed this already, can be classified as peanut butter.
No,
Right.
it's not.
It's sort of peanut butter-ish.
Although,
Sure.
if in a pinch, if you have chocolate bar if I have chocolate bars and I'm in a particularly medicated situation, I might just get out the peanut butter and the chocolate bars. And it's you're right, it's absolutely not the same taste as a Reese's, but
No.
it's still damn good.
You got chocolate in my peanut butter. You got peanut butter on my chocolate.
And I like peanuts and chocolate together. I mean, I
Mhm.
like Snickers. I like Baby Ruths. Not so much.
Oh,
Mr.
I
Goodbar, but-
introduced Jacob to a banana fluffer nutter a couple weeks ago,
Oh,
and he was delighted.
I was gonna say, what's a candy that you like that nobody else seems to?
Well, apparently
Circus peanuts.
circus peanuts. Yeah. I like Laffy Taffy. I don't eat it very often though.
has anyone here ever actually eaten a Necco wafer?
Oh yeah, I love
Yeah.
those things.
You do?
Mm.
Yeah, they're
I'd
like
say
big
rather-
Smarties.
I'd
It's
rather
no,
They're
they taste like
not
candy
like
hearts.
Big
They're not
Smarties.
like big Smarties at all.
They're like if
Then we're
Big
thinking of something
Smarties
else then.
fell into like the fly gene splicer with styrofoam.
Oh my God. It does taste like styrofoam. Oh,
If they
Oh,
teleport
those
across
things.
the room,
Okay, I was thinking of
you get
something
Nico
else. Never
wafers.
mind. Yeah,
No,
I was
Necco
thinking of something
wafers.
else.
They're the round like $half size
Mhm.
Yeah.
compressed chalk.
They're
Yeah,
discs.
they
It's-
taste
it's
those
discs.
things. Yeah, I don't like those.
They'll
Those
suck
taste
all
like
the moisture out of your head.
if you go to like a science museum, they always sell astronaut ice cream, and that's
Yeah.
kind of what it tastes like.
Yeah, I can see
That might be what
it
it is, actually.
I was fine with Necco wafers, and we would often have them at the house, and I would eat all of them except for the black ones. The black ones can go straight to hell.
I do not like jelly beans at all. You can have all the jelly beans and just choke on them. I don't care.
I
don't
like jelly beans.
I do too.
Yeah, depends on the
Again,
flavor.
I'm not a huge fan of non-chocolate candy.
I was
I'll
an
eat
addict.
it.
Jelly beans, for some reason, jelly beans are better like around Easter though. Like they put out the good jelly beans or something.
Yeah, it's not the
I don't-
flavor that I don't like. It's more the texture because we do a game when I go to cons. We do the
Mhm.
game where I ask trivia questions, and if you get them wrong, you have to eat a jelly bean, and it's and it's the jelly beans that have all the weird flavors, all the bad flavors are in there and stuff like that.
I think that might be why you've reconditioned
No,
yourself.
I've
All jelly
I've
beans
never
are
been a
horrible.
fan of jelly beans. I just don't like the texture of them. I don't know.
I enjoy that game because I listened to a recording of Sean doing that or hosting that game, and as I was listening to it, sorry, I got the timeline confused. My brother, some listeners might remember him from previous episodes being on the panel. My
You
brother
might know him
Tom,
from such shows as
he caught Sean in a mistake.
Mhm.
The answer that Sean said was correct for a particular question. Turns out he was wrong.
Yeah.
And my brother called him on it, and I passed it on to Sean. And Sean, he copped to the mistake, and he ate a jelly bean. He did a short video and released it online of him eating a jelly bean because he got it wrong. And I can't remember what flavor he got, but it was.
I remember it was a bad one. It was.
Yeah, I know, Sean. I mean, when your last jelly bean flavors were, I think, like boogers, sour milk, or rotten eggs.
Toothpaste.
Yeah, but I haven't liked jelly beans since I was a kid. You know, it's just and like I said, it's not the flavors, because some of the flavors are good. It's just that weird. I don't know. It's a weird, almost hard, almost soft, chewy. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
see, I
just
like
weird.
that.
Yeah.
I think because
very
I'm more of a
distinctive.
fan of
Yeah.
sugar, and I like sweet and sour more than I like, say, like chocolate. So I like jelly beans, especially if they're citrus flavored, and I love like Sour Patch Kids and sour
Yeah.
worms and
I do
gummy
like Sour
stuff.
Patch Kids. I'll eat a whole bag of Sour Patch
and
Kids.
I don't do sour at all.
All
so-
of those are
Yeah.
okay for me. They're not like I'm never gonna miss them. I'm never gonna like crave jelly beans. My fruity candy of choice is probably Skittles.
Skittles are good.
Mhm.
I
Not-
give
not
no argument
counting.
here.
Not counting
Yeah.
Raisinets because it's
I can do a sugar overdose on Skittles. If I have too many, I can't. I even to this day, I can still get sick to my stomach.
How
But-
about nerds?
Like
It's
nerds.
the same thing. I like them. The crunch aspect of nerds is great, but again, it can be too much sugar. And we
Nerds
talked about
were-
sour just a second ago. I need to ask if anyone remembers tear jerkers.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
The super sour and now that was gum, wasn't it?
Tearjerkers,
Yeah,
I
they
think
were-
it's gum,
they
and
were
then
gum.
you might think of the atomic sour. It
right.
had a guy
Yeah.
with a
The-
blown out face on the ball. It's like a ball.
It became a fad. There was like 3 or 4 different brands of candies with the super sour
Yes.
Yeah.
super sour coating.
I'm not a fan of the super sour. I was actually gonna say you asked about nerds. It wasn't so much that I particularly enjoyed the taste of nerds. I thought they were okay. It was more that they were the novelty of the cool little box where you could slide one half and slide the other half.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
You could dole them out to your friends. That was the cool candy to have at school.
I
Mhm.
liked.
Now
I
you
liked
want to talk about
nerds.
novelty?
Yeah, Pop Rocks.
Pop Rocks.
Pop Rocks. I was thinking nerds
Pop
were
Rocks.
just like less exciting Pop Rocks.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
they
I
still
remember
sell
when-
Pop Rocks. I saw some.
Oh
at the
yeah, they're
store.
still around. I remember
Oh.
when they first came out, though, or at least when I first, I don't know how long they were around, but I didn't believe it. Oh, this stuff you put it in your mouth and it pops and makes all this noise, and I'm like, yeah, right. And then I got some Pop Rocks, like, this is so freaking cool.
Yeah, and if you drink a Pepsi at the same time, it'll make your head explode.
Or
Yes.
it'll make you
Whoa.
die.
Yeah.
That's what we always heard. Yeah.
The with the crybabies or the tear jerkers super sour gum, I performed an impromptu accidental science experiment, and I never had any after that, because they would usually come in like a tube, like a plastic tube almost, or a sleeve.
Mhm.
So you get a stack of like, I don't know, 6 or 10 of them. So I popped one into my mouth and I just sucked on it really hard to get the sour coating off of it. And once it was no longer sour, I said, okay, that one's done. Pop in another one. So I just, kept riding that super sour coating over and over again. I think it was on my 6th one. That's when I realized that my tongue was bleeding.
Mhm.
Ooh.
Okay, so that's too many tearjerkers to have in a row. Don't have that many.
Yeah, they're
That
very
was-
acidic. They're very acidic.
Yes, they are.
I just thought of something I haven't thought about in probably 30 or 40 years. When I was a kid, we used to be able to get these candy sticks that were like they were like a barber pole. They had,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Yep.
but if you weren't
Pixie
careful,
sticks?
No, not
no,
pixie
no,
sticks.
they were like
No.
hard candy.
He's just
but it
talking
was a
about like hard
stick,
Yeah.
candy.
and it had a
Oh.
swirl down it.
And you suck
Yeah,
one
yeah,
in and you accidentally turn it into a shiv.
But
Exactly.
the swirl,
Yes.
the swirl was a different density than the rest of it, and it would dissolve first, and it would leave this razor sharp channel down
Yeah.
the
Yes.
thing.
Yeah, it's like I've always thought that those giant lollipops are like this big. It's just a waste. Nobody's gonna eat a lollipop that
No.
big.
Yeah, those were dumb.
My mom wouldn't let us throw them away. If somebody gave them to us at Christmas or whatever, we'd lick it for a little while, and then she would make us like put it in a Ziploc bag and stick it in the refrigerator. And we
It was
would
like Homer's sandwich.
that thing was in there for months.
There was the line, and they've I don't know if they ever went away and came back recently or if I just stopped noticing them, but lemon heads and cherry heads and red
Mhm.
hots and Boston baked beans. They all had the exact same packaging.
That
Just different
cardboard,
colors.
little cardboard box.
Yes,
Yeah.
the little cardboard box. And once the box was empty, you could play it like a harmonica.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Boston baked beans, I will to this day, like I think like maybe 8-9 years ago that they like I've started seeing them like in Walgreens and CVS and stuff again. So like
Weren't they
What
just
do they,
peanuts?
what do they taste like?
They were just peanuts, right?
they're
No.
candy coated peanuts.
Yeah.
Boston
Yeah.
baked
Okay.
beans. They're candy
That's
coated
one I've
beans.
never eaten. I've
Me
never.
neither.
I enjoy them. And like anytime I'm at an Ace Hardware, I'll pick it up because they're 25 cents.
The candy that they used to have when I was a kid that they don't sell anymore is candy cigarettes. You remember those?
Sure.
Oh, sure.
Oh
yeah.
God.
You
Once
actually
upon a
can.
time.
You gotta. I can't remember where they're still available, but far less.
Well, they weren't that good.
No, they tasted
No.
like Necco wafers, just long.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well,
It
no,
was
they're,
just,
they're
I'm
gum.
cool,
I got
I'm smoking.
But
Get
you
the
could
ones
and
that
you,
are-
you could blow a little puff of
Yeah.
powdered
stuff out
sugar.
of them. Yeah. My mom wouldn't buy them. She was so adamant that we weren't gonna grow up to be smokers that if I was
Yeah.
caught pretending to smoke, I was in trouble. So
I think my mom
My
was smoking
mom-
when she gave birth to me.
My mom was, and the day and I'm not kidding, the day my mom found out that I was smoking when I was in my 20s, she gave me a fucking carton of cigarettes. She was like, oh, here.
oh my mom, she found out that I started. Well, we're way off Halloween now, but
Oh.
she found out that I was smoking because I smoked in my early 20s, and
I remember.
I was at a like a 4th of July dinner or something like that. She was there, and she lived out of state, so she would come in to visit and stuff. And I pulled out a cigarette. She knew that I had been smoking, but she had never actually seen me do it. I pulled out a cigarette, and she just looked at me. She said, "You're not going to smoke that cigarette in front of me." No, I'm not. Just put it away.
Such a weird thing because my parents both smoked all the time we were growing up, and I didn't start smoking until I was like in my 20s, my early 20s. You go through a phase, I think. And I lit up
Sandman.
and I lit up and my mom said, "Oh, you break my heart when I see that." I was like, "You've been smoking. I've been watching you smoke my entire life."
Yeah.
But they somehow justified the fact that I was born premature and I had like water on my lungs or whatever. When I was a kid, I'd like lived in the incubator for a little while. And I guess they still see me as like the little, I don't know, like the Eraserhead baby. Ruining my lungs, my already fragile lungs. Yeah. It's funny because to this day, Laura still smokes. She has never smoked in front of her parents, and we're both in our 50s.
I have
Oh,
friends
really?
like that.
Yeah.
My friend Jen, she doesn't listen to the show, I don't think. Her she smokes. Her husband smokes. They live in the Netherlands. She met a Dutch guy and married him, and they moved to the Netherlands. They're in their 40s. They still can't smoke in front of her mom. Her dad was the most amazing cigarette hiding ninja you would ever meet, because he smoked. And he would take the dog for a drag, we used to call it, because the dog didn't want to go.
Yeah.
Never found the butts, never smelled any smoke on him, but he was, he took the dog for a walk so he could go have a cigarette. And it was hilarious because, her mom, I love her mom. Her folks are some of the great. I worked for her dad for a year. And her mom is wonderful. But, she's one of those people that just, if you piss her off, you are not going to enjoy life for a while. And just the fact that her dad was able to, up until he had a heart attack, and I assume he quit then. Nobody knows, because you never caught him smoking, but you knew he was smoking. He was a magician about it.
Oh, my grandfather, he died. I mean, he died of lung cancer because he smoked his entire life. And he was in the hospital with emphysema and took his oxygen tank downstairs and went outside to smoke a cigarette.
Yeah.
He actually got caught in this hospital room one time because he went in the bathroom and smoked a cigarette. And the nurse came in there and smelled it. He got yelled
Not
at.
with the oxygen mask on, I hope.
Yeah, it's a hell of a drug.
I mean, if you're gonna use the energy to go all the way downstairs when you're on oxygen to smoke a cigarette, by that point, they don't really care if they blow themselves up. All right, let's talk about horror movies. We're going to talk about our favorite horror movies that came out before the year 2000. And
You're in my wheelhouse now, guys.
I guess I'll start the conversation with the first one on my list, which is Misery. Which I didn't actually watch when it first came out, because it's one of those deals where you don't see it when it's first released, and then you kind of forget about it for several decades, And I didn't go back and watch it until I was listening to the Now Playing podcast, and they were doing a retrospective of all these Stephen King movies, and that was one of them. So I watched it when they did that. But as a Stephen King fan, it's hard to not know about I knew what it was.
I was gonna say, how did you miss? That's very surprising to me.
Yeah. Well, it just fell off my radar. And so many movies and TV shows have done like a version of Misery at one time or another.
Mhm.
There's a Quantum Leap episode, that Moments to Live episode.
Moments to Live, yeah.
Which is kind of Misery, kind of a play on that trope. But Misery is really more suspense than it is horror. But it's not traditionally horror in that it's not a slasher, it's not an alien, it's not a monster, it's or a ghost or anything like that. But James Caan is being held hostage by this crazy person, Kathy Bates, and it's so much more tense in that she does these horrible things and she kills people, but she has this moral compass that she doesn't like cursing, so she says cockadoodie all the time, that kind of stuff. So I wasn't scared. But the movie does put you on edge because it's suspenseful, and that leg smashing scene still, it makes me cringe just thinking about it. It's realistic looking. Yeah. Ugh, okay. Because Chris, I know you've seen Misery, right?
Many, many times.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
I it was probably a couple of years ago. And I can't remember if this was prompted or if I just decided to do it, but I posted on Facebook that, for those of you who don't know, I think the concept of something being quote unquote canon in fictional universes in the modern era is just silly. Like it makes sense if you're a person and you have owned the property and you're the only person who creates stuff in the property, then fine, you get to determine what canon is. But canon in the MCU or canon in Star Trek or canon where, someone just buys the property and then does what they want doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway.
Is somebody on a submarine, or is there an alarm going off or something?
That's my nephew's calling my son. My son is
okay.
asleep.
Just sounds like a sonar ping.
I suppose I could do something about it. Anyway,
I was hoping nobody would say anything. Asshole, thank you.
That's fine. I have my noise canceling headphones on, so it's really not bothering me at all. Holy shit, he's not picking up, guys. Let it go. Okay. Yeah, so anyway, I used a GIF of Kathy Bates. I was like, this is what it sounds like to me when people argue over canon. Like, she didn't get out of the cock-a-doodle car.
Yep.
Pretty much.
All right.
I think my phone is listening to us. You can cut this, Sean. But Rick, literally, this is a headline on my Google. Do Star Trek characters watch Star Trek? And in lower decks, it says in lower decks, comma, ... Sorry, I had to.
And that's something that this is off the subject, but that's something that I've thought of. I thought of the last time Rick said that about Star Trek being a show on lower decks or whatever. It's like, that nobody on Star Trek watches anything on TV or movies that was made before like 1940. They always watch old movies and stuff like that.
They only watch public domain stuff.
Yeah, that too. Virginia, what about you? What's your first one?
Well, I actually watched a couple earlier today to kind of prepare for this. My first one would be Poltergeist. Which one is that really? Yeah.
Sure.
It's definitely horror. That's
I think it's really great. Well, first of all, because it was rated PG-13. So like it was the only horror movie that my parents would let us watch at slumber parties. So we were allowed to rent it from the video store. It was really awesome. But also I was watching it earlier today and like the effects really hold up. I mean, there are some that I'm like, that's a little iffy, but a lot of them, they're just, I mean, I wouldn't be able to tell you that it's a movie from 1982. Except for the clothes.
Yeah.
well, a lot of the skeletons in the pool were actually real skeletons. They
Shut
were,
up. Really?
No, they were. Yeah, they were the same skeletons from Raiders of the Lost Ark from the scene where they're getting out of the Well of the Souls.
Oh yeah.
They got a deal on a bunch of real skeletons.
Really?
That sounds so odd.
They weren't all real, but some of them were. It's funny. I saw
Donate my body to cinema.
I saw Poltergeist in Gainesville. It was my freshman year in college. I was away from home for the first time, and Poltergeist came out, and I rode. I rode my bike everywhere in Gainesville, and this movie theater. It was the same place. I saw Poltergeist and it scared the crap out of me, but I really loved it. It was on my list. I just crossed it off. But also there was my friend Guthrum convinced me to go with him to a midnight showing of Dawn of the Dead. And then I had to ride my bike back home through the what they called the student ghetto of Gainesville at 2:00 in the morning, where I was sure there was a zombie behind every tree and around every corner. But yeah, I saw Poltergeist at that same cinema, and I saw it in the afternoon, so it wasn't a traumatic experience riding home. But I love that. I haven't watched it in years, and I keep wanting to, and I always think that I want to watch it when I'm nowhere near a TV or a computer or something. But I really need to rewatch that one because it was.
It's
so
streaming
good.
right now.
I'm not surprised. Tell me
This
something.
house
The
is
scene where the
clean.
dude like imagines he's tearing his face off. Does that hold up?
That is not so great. No.
Not so great. Okay.
Mm-mm.
And who here does not ever use the phrase "this house is clean" after you finish doing housework?
I just said it.
Oh, did you? I didn't hear you.
I was talking over people, so I was being rude.
You know what? Ironically, I never use it when I'm doing housework. it's never even occurred to me.
I have
after I've actually cleaned the house.
occasions.
It's after I've beaten something in a video game or decimated my enemies in some competition. But it's never occurred to me to actually do it after I clean the house.
And I would never ever give my child a clown doll like that one was. I don't care how
What?
benign
Oh
the
my
situation
God.
is.
I mean, what happened with that
So
poor kid with
creepy.
the clown doll and the tree are the two
The
things
tree,
that stick
yeah.
with me
Braces.
most.
Yeah.
Or was that
And
two?
I still to this day try to figure out how far a storm is when counting the between the lightning and the thunder.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I do
Because of that
too.
movie.
I
Mhm.
taught Sharon that just last month.
Is that the one where the little girl says they're here, or was
Yep.
that?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah,
I couldn't
that's-
remember.
yeah.
I knew it was Poltergeist, but I didn't know if it was that one or if it was one of the sequels.
Did
No, that was the first one.
now I never watched the remake. Did any of y'all watch the remake?
It was a remake.
A
Yeah.
remake or a sequel?
Wasn't there was like was it a sequel to Poltergeist? There was
There
a
were a couple
Poltergeist
of
movie in the
sequels.
last
I think there
few
was 3
years.
of them.
There were a couple of sequels. I don't know if there was a
I
remake.
don't think there was a remake.
Thought
There may
was.
well have been. There probably
Okay.
was. I
Yeah.
don't have any recollection of it.
We can find out. We have the Oracle.
Yep, there's a 2015 remake.
Yeah, I there was no way I was going to watch it. I was like, this is a perfect movie. Y'all can have it if you want, but I'm not going to watch it.
First one was in 82, second in 86, and then Poltergeist 3 in 88. And
Poltergeist
that was it.
2 was a remarkable sequel in that it was every bit as good as the first one.
What was
And
the
I
plot to that
remember
one? That
That
wasn't
was
the
the one where
mirror one,
the
right?
preacher. That was the one with the
Yeah.
preacher.
God is in his holy temple.
And the dad drinks the tequila and he swallows the worm and then he gags
Oh,
up the
yeah.
worm.
Yeah,
And
I kind of remember that.
yeah.
Yeah. The one you're thinking of, Poltergeist 3, it only had the little girl who played Carol Ann, I think, and it was
Yeah.
like set in like a skyscraper or something.
Well, and it had
Yeah,
it
she
had
went to
the-
go live with like her aunt or
It
something.
had
Yeah.
the little the medium woman too.
Oh yeah,
Zelda
Yeah.
Rubinstein.
The
yeah.
the
The
small
late,
to
the late
medium woman.
great Zelda Rubinstein.
Well, and the little girl died too. She died very
Yeah,
young.
she died. She had a kidney thing going on. I think.
Yeah.
In the third one,
And so did the older sister. She
She was. They think that she was murdered by her boyfriend or something.
Oh,
like
really?
that.
Jesus
If you
Christ.
read on her Wikipedia page, like her parents, it seems to me, I don't know why I looked her up, but I don't know if she vanished, and they seem to be like saying that she was killed by a boyfriend or something like that. Sean, you can cut this.
Mm.
It's unsubstantiated. I don't know. It's sort of what I'm recalling from reading her Wikipedia page. So yeah, I mean, yeah. Craig T. Nelson's doing okay though, so don't you guys
And
worry.
Joe Beth Williams is still I love
She's
her.
still alive and kicking.
Yeah, except the reboot of Coach never happened. That made me sad. John, what about you? What's your first one?
I'll be honest. I didn't think I'd be on tonight, so I didn't do any preparation. I was gonna talk about whatever you guys talk about. But I've got I did, thanks to the miracle of the smartphone, I got 3. And I decided to go with movies that I wasn't expecting much from, but turned out to be surprisingly good. And I was trying to find ones that we haven't already talked about on the show at some point, but I don't think there was any movie that we haven't talked about on the show at some point. So I'll start off with the 1990 classic Tremors, starring
I gotta take that off my list.
Kevin Bacon and Fred Ward. See?
Yeah, great film.
Yeah, it was. I knew nothing about it. It was one of those. Oh, I like these actors. I wonder what this is about. And I think this might have been one of the ones that hit the video store when I was working at the video store, and all my videos were free, so I picked it up.
That's
It
the
was
movie where
great.
I discovered where I fell in love with Reba McEntire.
I was gonna say, well, you discovered Reba McEntire.
Yeah.
Reba McEntire. Love her.
Yeah,
I
it was a very good movie, and it was it was the definition of a well done, low budget, B movie action
yeah.
horror flick. Yeah,
It,
Can you
it
give me a
raised the
year on
bar
that?
for the B movie.
What year was that, John?
1990. The first one was 1990.
I saw a story the other day that just popped up on Facebook, and it said that some scientists were working on creating a robot that could dig underground and swim through the ground like it's water. And And I told my wife, it's like, do they want graboids? Because that's how we get graboids.
Either that or
No,
Bugs Bunny.
that's oh, what was that movie? Screamers.
Yeah, with
Peter Weller.
Peter Weller. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
Or a Horta.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now let's just clarify something. Graboid is not a term that was used in the first movie.
I think it was.
No, it wasn't, because they were. I guarantee you. No, they didn't call them graboids in the first movie.
Okay. I will concede to your degree of confidence.
Does
And
anyone else
if I'm wrong, I will freely admit it, folks. My email is bizrickness@gmail.com. If you
Is it
want to
really?
tell me I'm full of shit. That's the email I never checks.
Explains a lot.
That's the
Does
one I use
anyone
for
else on
signing
this
up.
panel know how many films there are in the Tremors series?
I am going to, because Allison told me at some point. I believe there are 8 and counting, and they're basically now built
Wow.
around Stephen Gross.
No, I think
Michael Gross, rather.
There's not that many,
Stephen
are there?
But there was
Michael
also a
Gross.
TV series.
I thought there was like 5 or 6.
I think there's 6.
When they
Scott,
started
what's the
flying-
definitive answer?
Well, I thought it was 7, but now that 2 people have said 8, now I need to double check.
I could be
No, I'm
misremembering.
looking. Yeah, it's 7.
All
You
right,
got-
8 is a
you-
number I just pulled out of the air. So.
You got Tremors 5, Bloodlines, and then Tremors: A Cold Day in Hell, and then Tremors: Shrieker Island, and then Tremors the series came out in 2003.
Are any of them as good as the
Shrieker
first one?
Island actually came out last year.
Yeah.
I think I watched the second one and decided that was all I ever needed to see.
I mean, I've definitely watched the second one, and I probably watched the third one.
I want to
But
say, was it
I don't know.
BB Beseech that was in the first one? Or was it Gillian Hicks? I know, I remember one Star Trek movie, Blonde. I don't know if it was Carol Marcus or
I don't know.
Catherine Hicks, Gillian, the whale biologist.
Yeah,
think it
BB
was
Besh
Carol
was
Marcus.
Carol Marcus. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not the whale biologist.
Yeah, it was BB Besh.
Yeah, we go.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I remember that movie. That's why I asked the year, because I remember seeing that in the theater with Laura.
Yeah.
And like you, John, we just went to see it because we were on a date and we had just met, and we both were just astounded at how good it was.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It should not have been as good as it was, but Fred Ward and Kevin Bacon, and then Reba McEntire and I can't remember the dude that played her husband.
Michael Gross.
Michael. That's right. Yeah. They made the movie.
That's why they built all the
I wouldn't
sequels
say
around
it
him.
shouldn't be as good as. Yes, the acting in it was good, but it was also well written. Like the
Yeah.
direction was good. It was. I mean, they definitely punched above their weight,
Yeah.
and they hit what they were aiming for.
It was a
very happy to
movie
see it.
that you went to it expecting it to be down
Meh.
here,
Mhm.
and it was up here.
Yeah. You went in expecting 8-legged freaks.
Right. I should point out that as I was just looking at IMDb, technically we can say that there were 8, because in 2018 a made-for-TV movie, which was intended to start a new TV series of Tremors,
Okay.
was made and released in 2018, starring Kevin Bacon and Fred Ward.
Wow. So Allison Pregler vindicated.
Yes.
And apparently Kevin Bacon returned to the role, but everyone passed on the series.
Michael Gross is still starring in some of these movies. He was in
Yeah.
this one, Tremors: A Cold Day in Hell, that came out in 2018. He was in that.
And he's also in Shrieker Island from 2020.
So again, are any of these worth watching? Has anybody seen them?
I
I've
haven't
only
doubt
seen
seen
the
those.
first one and maybe the second.
But I'm the guy who, surprise, surprise, has them all.
I saw Tremors. I remember seeing up to Tremors 3 because they used to show the third one on television, like regular network television, a lot, at least like once a year.
It was remarkable. I don't know about Tremors 3 because I didn't watch it, but Tremors was, for the subject matter, remarkably not gory. It could have been a lot where I think the worst scene is where the it's just the dude's head in the sand.
Yeah, I think that was PG-13 as well. In fact,
Yeah.
it let me confirm that, but I'm 90% sure.
I think you saw more graboid guts than people guts. Orange
All
blood
right.
everywhere.
Chris, what about you? What's your first one?
Sean, I'm going to throw back to the first time you and I ever were on mic together, because I believe we discussed this way back when, but one of the single greatest movie going experiences of my young life was seeing Return of the Living Dead. It was amazing. And to this day, if I want to watch a zombie movie, that's the one I put on first, even before the original Night of the Living Dead. And I love the Day of the Dead too, but for me, zombie movies don't get better than Return of the Living Dead, because not only did it have the gore, but it was the first movie that sort of deconstructed the zombie tropes. And they also introduced like fast moving zombies, like zombies that would give you like a flying tackle, not just shambling zombies, but like really dangerous zombies. So I just remember all the humor in it. I remember I can't speak highly enough about it. I to this day I still love it. I think it really holds up. Have you seen it or?
Oh yeah, I've seen I don't know if I've seen all of the Return movies, but I've seen, how many were there?
I know that there were two, because we went to see the sequel because we were so hyped up on that film, and I was so disappointed in how bad the sequel was, because I think they leaned way into the camp factor without having sort of the serious undertone that the first movie had, where the camp was just a nice add-on to it.
Yeah, there were okay, Return of the Living Dead, Return of the Living Dead Part 2, Return of the Living Dead 3, Return of the Living Dead Necropolis, so that's 4. Return of the Living Dead Rave to the Grave, so that's 5 movies altogether.
Never seen anything past 2.
My friend Jeff and I went to see this movie, and it is a well-known fact that I am a wuss when it comes to horror movies. Although I've seen a lot more than anyone would imagine. This movie was marketed as a comedy, and I suppose in a way it is.
Yeah, it's got a lot of comedy in it. Yeah,
it does.
But we went to it, I honestly don't know how Jeff felt about it. It messed me up big time, because I was expecting just a silly movie, and yes, there are certain comedic elements of it, but it's also scary as hell. And I was not expecting that. And it traumatized me. It starts off relatively benign, and of course, you've got the punk chick who's naked through pretty much the whole movie. So
that's Linnea Quigley, who's naked through every movie.
Yeah, as like a 17 or 18-year-old or 18 or 19-year-old kid, I was like, yeah, all right, this is great. And then you just got these fast moving, unkillable zombies. You've got the that's where the whole eating brains came from.
Yeah, because they explain in the movie that zombies are in pain unless they eat brains.
The pain of being dead. I remember they had the zombie on the table, which was just was nothing below the spine, and the spine. I mean, the tech of it was amazing. It wasn't that the same year that Life Force came out, and they were using very similar animatronics. So
yet another movie where
there's Life Force.
Yeah, a naked lady running out throughout the entire movie.
Yeah, which is probably one of the.
It was a theme that year, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, not Return to the Living Dead really did not do good things to my psyche.
It did great things to my psyche. It came out on video that summer, and I think I was 15, and we watched it every day. It was the greatest.
It's interesting because John Russo,
in a nutshell, is Rick and Chris.
John Russo made Night of the Living Dead with Romero, and then John Russo wrote a novel called Return of the Living Dead that was a sequel to that movie. And then when he parted ways with Romero, he decided to make a movie based on his book. So basically, all of Romero's movies are sequels to Night of the Living Dead. and all of Russo's movies are also sequels to that same movie. And but Russo was allowed to keep the Living Dead part of the title, and that's why all Romero's movies are of the dead, and all the Russo movies are the Living Dead.
Oh, I had no idea. And the funny thing is, they do reference that. The other thing that really struck me in that movie, I don't know if this is a regional thing, but the guy who is I guess he runs the graveyard, and it's his nephew that's there working. Freddie. I forget what his name is, but he was the Pathmark spokesman here in New York. So I knew him from TV commercials for a supermarket chain called Pathmark, where he was like the lovable grocer guy. And then all of a sudden he shows up in Return of the Living Dead, and it's like, oh my God, that's that guy. So it was just another juxtaposition. But I remember specifically them referencing the fact that, those zombie movies, the Living Dead movies, that actually really happened. And here they are contained in this barrel. So they did directly reference the Romero universe.
Right.
Yeah.
I just, the problem I had with it, and I think what messed with me the most, and what gives me an out in the Romero movies, is that you can kill a Romero zombie. It's the Romero movies are science fiction. It's a virus that came from outer space that is reanimating dead nervous systems, and if there's enough of the corpse left, it will lurch around and attack people. And while there are certainly aspects of that are scary, especially if you get enough of them in one place, I kind of appreciate that the implacable, slow moving horror of the George Romero zombies. What Return of the Living Dead was make them indestructible no matter what you did to them.
Right. They said chop them into little pieces, and those little pieces will come after you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was the part that just made it unbearable for me. And I think it goes back to, and I hadn't thought about this in a long time. I'm originally from Connecticut, and Chris, you may remember the ice storm of like 73 or 75. I don't remember what exactly it was, but like New England.
I was living in the Bronx. I remember I was little, and power was out. That's all I remember.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was too. And we went and stayed with friends who still had power for some reason. I was 3 or 4 or something like that. So, maybe no, I was more.
No, if you were 3 or 4, then
I was like
born.
5 or 6. Well, no, I was less than 10. That's right, because I could read. I was, but still, they had one of those EC comics.
Oh, cool!
One of those books, and I remember one of the stories in it. And if folks, if you don't know what EC comics were, they were, really gross horror comics.
Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And one of the stories was about a woman whose husband died, and somehow she got a magical wish, and she wished her husband to come back to life, but of course she didn't word it right, and so he came back to life embalmed and rotting and decaying and stuff, and then she ends up chopping him up into little pieces, and all the little pieces are still wiggling. And I was just young enough that just burrowed into my brain and stayed there. And then when we saw Return of the Living Dead, it just went boom.
So there was a ticking time bomb just waiting to be detonated. Gotcha.
All right. Who was next? Who has not gone yet?
Me.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, Greg.
All right. I would like to start. I don't know how many we're going to get these through, because we're way.
Yeah, we'll probably do one more round after this one.
Okay. So I've got a list this long of movies that I love. But as my first one, I'm going to go back to one of my favorite very early horror films, and that's The Creature from the Black Lagoon. Because I love a good monster movie. And I think The Creature from the Black Lagoon is one of the best monster movies. You watch some of these classic Universal monster movies, as they became known later on. And they're not particularly, Dracula is very atmospheric, but the story is kind of weak. And Lugosi, for at the time, it was interesting, but I think that, you know, it kind of became cliche, and not his fault, but everybody started riffing on it. Frankenstein is really good for a, you know, for a 1930s movie, but I think Creature from the Black Lagoon really did a good job of being innovative and being scary. Because if you go, have you all seen it in your adult lives?
No.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah,
since
we
I was a kid.
we reviewed it on the show. Me and you and Troy, I think.
Yeah,
Talked about it
that's
on the
right.
show.
We did.
Yeah.
I was there.
It has always been a favorite of mine. And if you go back and watch it, you know, think about some of the shots in Jaws where you're looking up from below and swimmers are, you know, on the surface, and how scary that is. Creature from the Black Lagoon is where they started doing that. And the Gillman suit was revolutionary, because especially if you go watch any science fiction horror film from that era, the monsters are ludicrous at best. But this was, and I don't remember the dude's name, but they found this kid who was a free diver and could hold his breath for a long time. And so he was in the suit and would do amazing scenes where he would spend, you know, up to 3 minutes underwater, which was unheard of, you know, so they could get these really long shots. And, you know, he was tall and skinny and looked really great in the costume. There's also, God, I wish I had looked this up. The face of the creature was sculpted by, the credit goes to this guy who was running their makeup department, but it was actually sculpted by a woman. And I can't remember her name, but it's one of those classic instances in history of a woman did all the hard work and then the guy gets the credit for it and she's been forgotten.
Mhm.
It's worth looking up. But she designed the iconic Gillman face. And I think that, you know, kind of like with Alien, where, you know, the concept of Alien had been done before, but it was never done as well until they got the you know, the cast and the crew that they did. And Giger created, H.R. Giger, by the way, it's Giger, not Geiger, folks, you know, created this amazing monster that didn't look like anything we'd ever seen before and yet looked very real. That's what we got with the Gillman and the Creature from the Black Lagoon. And very similar to the I don't know, zeitgeist isn't really the right word, but, you know, a lot of the monster movies, a lot of the more successful monster movies, you know, or monster stories, going, you know, back to Mary Shelley, is where, you know, where the creature, the monster, the antagonist is sympathetic. It's just doing what it does, and people intruded on its realm. And I really love that aspect of the Creature from the Black Lagoon, and its two sequels, The Creature, Revenge of the Creature, and The Creature Walks Among Us. You know, they got progressively less good, but I don't think any of them are bad. And if you're going to go back, if you're interested in going back and seeing some of the earlier underpinnings of horror cinema, you can't do, I think the best place to start is The Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah. And then the pseudo sequel, what was the name of that movie?
The
Shape of Water.
Shape of Water.
Yeah.
Another awesome movie, and another, and a fantastic Doug Jones performance.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
The Shape of Water, it's a spiritual sequel to The Creature from the Black Lagoon. Very different, but
well, yeah, more modern.
Yeah, but it's
more of a romance
movie.
than a horror, but yeah.
You know, there's the cat scene is kind of just saddening.
All right. I've probably brought this movie up every Halloween that we've done this show. Scott, have you not gone yet? Go, Scott.
Thanks. All right, since I know there's going to be one more round after this, I'll save my arguably my favorite one for last. But first off, this is a threefer because the entire trilogy all came out before the year 2000, and that would be, I think, not much of a surprise. Evil Dead 2, and Army of Darkness.
I considered Army of Darkness, but I guess it's technically horror, but it's the other two definitely are, but Army of Darkness, I'm not sure if
it's a comedy horror, but it definitely,
it's certainly as much a horror as Tremors is.
There's that, and
all
it's
right.
also like a track runner. It's drafting behind Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. It gets waved in because of its association with the first two.
Yeah.
You don't often see a horror film do so much with so little. And the first Evil Dead is very effective. Yeah, it's obviously quite low budget when you go back and watch it now, but they were very creative with what little they had, and Sam Raimi did a great job of crafting this and getting really effective special effects for a pretty low budget.
Play-Doh doesn't cost them.
Right. And even though it was a hellish shoot, it and that was actually no pun intended, because the shoot was deadly. It was really a hard time for everybody. But they were all clearly so invested in trying to make a solid film. And yes, the cat agrees. Yes, meow. It shows in the performance. It's in its way, I think it still holds up even now. The second one, sometimes I'm a little bit torn on the second one. The effects are better, and it's funnier because they're adding intentional humor into the second one where they weren't necessarily in the first one. But it also very nearly ignores the first one entirely, rewrites it in the first 10 minutes, and then continues on from there in the second film. But still, you go with it, because at the time those movies were made, people were a little less hung up on continuity and our favorite word, canon. The third film, again, another upgrade in the special effects, but Army of Darkness is just hilarious. I still think it's funny even to this day.
And let me just clarify, folks. I wasn't criticizing it. Army of Darkness is one of my all-time favorite movies. I just don't necessarily think of it as horror, even though its foundation is in horror. It's not in any way scary.
Yeah, I watched it as a comedy for years before I actually got a chance to see the two movies that came before. I didn't even the first time I saw it, I didn't even realize that it was the third movie in a trilogy. I didn't know there were others that came before it. I just thought it was a really innovative film to start off right in the middle of this action.
Mm-hmm.
And the flashback exposition at the beginning, I thought, wow, they did a lot of filming for this flashback that just kind of sets the stage. It turns out there was a whole 2 movies that they'd done before that.
Yeah, I was the same. I had no idea it was the third movie of a series. It just looked like fun, and we went and saw it. And yeah, you really didn't need to see the first 2 to appreciate Army of Darkness.
Mm-hmm.
Although apparently overseas it was called Evil Dead 3.
Yep.
All right. I've probably brought this movie up every Halloween that we've done this show, but Psycho is one of the most well-made horror movies I've ever seen. And for for a horror movie, it has the lowest kill count that I can think of because only 2 people die in that movie. But for Hitchcock to pull off a horror movie that is as suspenseful as this one is in the middle of the Hays Code era, excuse me.
Error
It
is
wasn't
pretty much appropriate.
It was an error, but
Mhm.
I think that's amazing. There's nothing particularly gruesome that happens, but it has you on edge. The kill scenes are drawn out. You anticipate more than what you actually get. And when that kill scene is over, the famous one with Janet Leigh in the shower, you think you saw more than what you actually saw. You never saw her actually get stabbed. You see a knife and you see her doing this, and you see some cuts on her arms and stuff. You never actually see the things that you think that you see, You see knife, skin, and it's bloodless until you see the blood going down the drain at the end. So they made several more films. None of them were Hitchcock. None of them live up to the original, but I did enjoy. They actually made 3 more that had Anthony Perkins in it, and I did enjoy them because I think Anthony Perkins was good in that role, and I think he did good even in the sequels. But yeah, then he makes the rest of the series pretty watchable, but none of them live up to that original. And don't even talk to me about that Vince Vaughn travesty that happened. I don't even know how you let that happen, but you take a movie that's all, it's one thing to remake a movie, but why reshoot a movie? Why make the same movie? It's the same shot for shot. It's the same movie, and it still works. How can it be worse if it's the same movie?
It was a gimmick that didn't work. It was,
and no, it didn't work.
Yeah, it didn't work at all.
Also, I'm sorry, Vince Vaughn doesn't have half the screen presence that Anthony Perkins does.
No, he doesn't.
There's no creep factor there with him. Anthony Perkins could be, at one time earnest, but then at the next turn, like, stay away, you lunatic.
Well, it's
Like
plus, of course, it's made in the 90s, so they have to be a little more salacious than they were in the 50s. But when Anthony Perkins is watching Janet Leigh through a hole in the wall, you know what he's doing, but they don't make it obvious.
They made it obvious with Vince Vaughn, right?
Vince Vaughn, they made it obvious because you hear the sound.
Yeah.
You hear the fapping.
But the funny thing is, the one thing I remember about that movie was Siskel and Ebert. I think it was Roger Ebert said the creepiest thing about Norman Bates was that he didn't masturbate. So why would they, make it so explicit in the remake?
Yeah, and then you got stuff like when Janet Leigh goes into the office there at the hotel and she sees all these stuffed birds everywhere. Anthony Perkins delivers the line, "You eat just like a bird," and it's very creepy the way he says it. Vince Vaughn just says, "You eat like a bird," So yeah, but Psycho is one of my favorite horror movies, and the Psycho series is better than it gets credit for. So,
Did you get it?
No.
Virginia, what about you? What's your next one?
Well, going from Janet Leigh to Jamie Lee Curtis, I gotta go with Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
It's terrifying. I think, well, there's 2 things that I like to talk about with this movie. Is one, the most terrifying aspect is when Jamie Lee Curtis is like running for her life and Michael Myers is just slowly and methodically following her. She's panicking. He's just like, I'm eventually going to get her and kill her. Like, very patient and just determined, which is very scary to me.
Mm-hmm.
But also, so I was watching this with my stepdaughter several years ago when she was a teenager. And it gets to the scene where, of course, Jamie Lee Curtis thinks she's killed Michael Myers. And she stands up and she drops the knife by him. And my stepdaughter, Adira is her name. Adira is like, don't they know you should never drop the knife by the killer? Everybody knows that. And I'm like, this is the movie. This
Yeah,
is the
this is
movie
where it
why
came
we
from.
know that. Like, oh man. And I'm like, yeah, I feel old right now. But anyway, so yeah, it's terrifying. It's terrifying to watch when you live out in the country with nobody around, and Michael Myers is behind every bush and tree. So that's why I picked that one.
Yeah, I really like the whole series because it's like every movie, it's the same thing. It doesn't change. He's the same guy. He does the same thing. He's just gonna walk towards you and he's gonna kill you.
Well, except for
And,
Halloween 3, which is just a weird travesty.
Yeah, there's a whole story behind why that movie happened. But
even if it takes 30 years, he'll keep on walking.
of course the new one comes out this month. But what I like about the last one that came out, Halloween, they brought Jamie Lee Curtis back, and they made it a sequel to that original film because they never said anything about him, Michael Myers, being her brother until the second one. So,
Oh, that's right.
yeah. So this is a sequel. The one that came out a few years ago is a sequel to that first film. They're not related anymore.
H2O?
No. Well, yeah, she came back for that too, but that was a sequel to the whole series. This last one that came out, that was just Halloween, that came out in 2018, was a sequel to the first film, and it skipped all the rest of them. So they're not related anymore. They're not related in this continuity. And then the one that comes out this month is a sequel to that one that came out in 2018. So yeah, they bring Jamie Lee Curtis back, but she's not Michael's sister, you know. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So, John, what you got?
Frighteners, 1996. Once again, comedy, horror.
Oh, you said Frighteners. I thought you said Wet Nurse. I was like, what movie is that?
What?
I thought you said White Nurse, and I haven't heard of that one.
Wow, now I want to see Wet Nurse and White Nurse. Wait, I'm married to White Nurse. I've seen that.
I heard Frighteners, John. Just
Thanks. They'll show up on Science versus Fiction, The Wet Nurse. There probably is a horror movie called The Wet Nurse. Anyway, Michael J. Fox stars as a psychic who can see ghosts, and basically it's Ghostbusters if ghostbusting was a scam. There's a few ghosts that he's in league with. They haunt a place, he busts the ghosts, and he gets paid, and then they move on to the next place.
Is that the one where one of them is the old cowboy with his like nose half off? Yeah.
Yeah, the most inappropriate scene in the film where he is having sex with a corpse and says, I like it when I still like that.
Yeah.
Wasn't that Gomez Adams, I want to say, or
No.
the guy always reminded me of Gomez Adams. He
what?
played
Hang on.
Harry's
Yeah.
father in Night Court, and I don't know his name.
John Aston.
John Aston.
That's
It is John Aston,
Yeah.
the judge.
That is Gomez.
Yeah.
That is Gomez.
Yeah.
He was in the TV show. Raul Julia was in the movie.
No, I meant the TV
Oh,
show.
sure.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Child of the '70s TV show.
Yeah, Raul Julia would not be in this film. Well, I mean, he did Street Fighter.
Let's not go there.
Anyway,
He did Street Fighter for a reason.
Jeffrey Combs was in that
and
movie.
he
I
was
didn't realize
dying.
that.
yeah, Jeffrey
I forgot
Combs.
about
he
that.
played a
Yeah, he
weirdo
played
in
the-
that film.
He was the FBI agent. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
I did like the scene when he gets his head cut off, but his ghost head is still there.
Yeah, I didn't know that Peter Jackson had directed. I'm assuming that's the same Peter Jackson.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
Because when I saw Aragon going through the paths of the dead, and the ghost came up, I immediately thought of the Frighteners. It's the same effect.
yeah, it is. It is.
Same exact effect.
I presumed that Robert Zemeckis directed this because it's very Robert Zemeckis like, and Michael J. Fox is starring it.
Yeah.
That's
But
a
no.
reasonable assumption.
But no,
And
Peter
Arlie
Jackson.
Ermey. Yeah, Arlie Ermey was in it too.
playing
I-
the same character he did in Full Metal Jacket.
Basically, yeah.
This
Yeah.
is not on my list only because I know I watched it, but I barely remember it.
I haven't watched it in 30 years.
Oh, it's not on my list.
Well,
we
no,
talked
not
about it
that.
last
20
week.
years.
I mean, I remember enjoying it. I just can't remember much about it. It was so long ago.
Yeah. It's
the
not
wallpaper
it
thing,
is,
I
I
remember
would
was
say it
cool.
is not as good a film as Tremors. It is more predictable and not as well written, but it's fun. It's popcorn fun. It's an enjoyable 90s supernatural action comedy horror movie starring Michael J. Fox.
And yeah, if you're a Michael J. Fox fan, it's pretty much a sweet zone for him. It's a good role for
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
one of the few actors where if he's in a movie, I'll watch it. I don't really have many actors that way, but I've seen Life with Mikey and Secret of My
Mhm.
Success, and you know,
The Hard Way.
The Hard Way. That was a good movie. The
That
Hard
was a
Way is
good
actually
movie.
really good. But
LL Cool J's
Hollywood.
debut, I believe.
Mhm.
Black Hollywood was cute.
All right. Chris, what's your next one?
Well, since we're only doing one more round, I was going to go with The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, because it was just such a milestone in FX and one of the most gory and interesting movies I'd ever seen up to that point. But
Yes.
I have to, if I can only pick one, because this one genuinely frightened me. I still find it disquieting, and I think it's endlessly fascinating. Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. And the reason I pick it is I know that a lot of it's almost like cliche now, like Here's Johnny and Jack Nicholson is like way over the top right in the beginning of the movie, but there's so much fan lore around it, and there's so much that people find in it still to this day. They can interpret that movie in so many different ways. And not only do I watch The Shining a lot, but I've seen this documentary called Room 237 a couple of times, where they just explore some of these fan theories about the movie, and some of them are, wackadoodle, but some of them are pretty cogent. And I think that it all fits into sort of the mystique that Kubrick built around him. And I remember when I saw Eyes Wide Shut, I went down the YouTube rabbit hole about Kubrick and the Illuminati, and it was just like weird and crazy. I had like a nightmare about it. So, I mean, that movie, The Shining, scared me when I was a kid to the point where I had a nightmare waking up screaming. And when I'm in my late 40s, after watching a ton of Stanley Kubrick videos because of The Shining, waking up from a nightmare. So it still gives me nightmares. So I don't know if you guys have a love for it or if it's just is, because it's such a mainstay.
I'm not a fan of it. I mean, I've said it on the show, but I don't think it's because I love the book. The Shining is one of my favorite King novels, but I'm just not a Kubrick fan.
Gotcha.
I mean, I can't think of anything that he made that I'm just like, oh yeah, I really like that movie.
One?
No, I don't like. I mean, that movie gives me a headache. But I mean, I recognize it for what it is to cinema. I know that there's parts of it that are important for the history of cinema and everything. I loved the callback to it in Ready Player One. I thought that whole sequence was great. And then the stuff that they did in Dr. Sleep, where they kind of went back to it. I thought that stuff was kind of interesting and everything. But as far as the movie, I mean, I'm not gonna say it's a bad movie, because I mean, I like I said, I can recognize it for what it is. It's the same way Rick is with The Godfather. He knows it's a good movie, he just doesn't like it. So yeah, that's kind of the way I am. And plus Stephen King doesn't even like it.
Yeah, I know, but if you see the TV version of The Shining, which he, sanctioned, it was the most self-indulgent mess. It was awful.
Yeah, it was
It was
Mhm.
freaking
crazy.
unwatchable. So you tell me who's got better judgment. I'm sorry. Every Stephen King movie I've ever seen has been mediocre to downright freaking horrible.
Yeah, most of them are not good.
Kubrick
I mean,
elevated The Shining. I think it might be because, like you, Sean, The Shining is probably my favorite Stephen King novel.
Yeah.
And I think this movie does it justice in the sense that it captures the horror that I felt when I was reading the book. It doesn't really hew to the book very like it's not faithful, but I think it's spiritually faithful.
I love Stephen King novels, but I can probably count on one hand how many Stephen King movies I think are good movies. I mean, you got Shawshank, you got The Green Mile,
Carrie.
Shawshank, which Rick is not allowed to watch.
Nope.
Okay.
The only thing I have to say is you were talking about Psycho, that there's only 2 deaths on screen. The Shining, I think, only has 1 actual death on screen. And it's when old Scatman Carruthers,
Yeah,
It's an axe
when
to
he
the chest.
gets the axe to the chest. You don't even really technically see Jack Nicholson die on screen. You just see him fall in the snow, and then you see him frozen the next day. But,
Spoiler alert.
No, but you do see
yeah, the bad
mangled
guy
bodies.
dies at the end of the horror movie.
You see the mangled bodies of the girls.
Yeah, but that's not. But you don't. Well, all right. I don't think that happens on screen.
No,
That's
I
all
mean
I'm
Danny
saying.
just flashes. First they're standing there, and then all of a sudden it's a jump cut to them like lying dead and
Right.
basically cut up in the corridor. Spoiler.
Yeah.
Well, what did you think of Dr. Sleep? Did you like that movie?
The movie or the book?
Either one. I mean, I don't think I finished the book, but
I read the
I
book
did watch the movie.
with some anticipation. I think the movie. I thought the book was good because it was a direct sequel to The Shining. But the movie walked a weird tightrope where it had to be both an adaptation of a sequel to the novel
Mhm.
version, yet it was also a sequel to the movie version. And I think that they did a pretty good job of marrying both of them together. I didn't like the fact that they recast Jack Nicholson. I didn't like the fact that they recast Scatman Crothers, but I understand why they did it, because if you're going to do a movie sequel of The Shining, then you have to have callbacks to the Overlook and the Kubrick version. And I thought it was
Well,
fine.
In the book,
In the book, they didn't do that. In the
He
book,
didn't
it
even
was
go
just
inside. He didn't even go inside the Overlook.
no. In the book, it was. But the thing is, you like you said with Ready Player One, you like that
Yeah.
scene because of all the iconic Overlook imagery.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying about the lasting impact that Kubrick's film has made. When you think of The Shining, you think of the Overlook. You think of that music. You think of the blood in the elevators. You think of, Daddy Boy. You think of all of that. And if you're a Stephen King fan and you've read the novel, you think of his version and some of the stuff. So like Dr. Sleep, I think, did a really good job of melding both of those.
That's
The film version.
That's the next thing that I hear they're gonna try to make into a TV series is The Shining. Well, it's not The Shining. They're gonna make a TV series called The Overlook.
Yeah, I wrote about that on To Flip Side like 7 years ago. Maybe
Oh, really?
more. It ain't
hasn't happened yet?
happening. Yeah, it's been sitting in limbo forever.
I don't know. Stephen King if they cut him a check, he'll sign his name to anything. He'll let anybody make a movie out of his stuff. But okay. Rick, what about you? What's your last one?
All right. This is a tough call. I got to throw out some quick honorable mentions. Beetlejuice, sorry, Virginia. Creepshow, Little Shop of Horrors. Frank Oz is a genius. Lost Boys, and okay, I'm really torn between these two movies, but I okay, An American Werewolf in London is a classic. I don't think we necessarily need to go into it because you either know it's a classic or you don't, and you haven't experienced it yet, and you need to. Also, Alien is a given. Just in my universe, Alien is always just there. It's top. Okay, but a movie y'all may not know. I have always been a big fan of vampire movies and vampire stories. I've read almost everything Anne Rice has written from the vampires, for her vampires. Lost Boys is a great movie. The only vampire movie there's two vampire movies I really don't like. John Carpenter's Vampires, which we have talked about in the past about how horrible that movie is for many reasons. And
Dracula 2000.
No, actually, I enjoyed Dracula 2000. It's not good, but I enjoyed it. No, the Bram Stoker's Dracula with Keanu Reeves and Gary Oldman.
What
Just
an
because,
overblown mess that movie was.
yes,
Yeah.
it made pretensions to be so much better than it was. If it had just come out and just didn't, it was just like when Kenneth Branagh a couple years later did his definitive Frankenstein, and it was an absolute mess as well. They both claimed to be the definitive adaptation of the novels, and then they kind of did the first chapters of the novels and then went, screw it, now we're going to do our movie. And it was just, I love Keanu as John Wick. I love him as in the Bill and Ted movies, but when he tries to do an English accent, it was awful. But
like, Rick, what is the last thing on your list?
I'm getting there. I was about to say it. To me, the pinnacle of vampire movies, especially year 2000, is The Hunger.
I knew you were going there. Susan Sarandon,
Catherine Deneuve, and David Bowie. And it is a wonderful, atmospheric tour de force of vampires and goth culture. It starts with freaking Bauhaus singing Bela Lugosi's Dead and just goes on from there. It was the movie where I realized what an amazing actor David Bowie is. We frequently see rock stars becoming getting into movies with varying degrees of success. Mick Jagger never should be in front of a camera. But David Bowie was an amazing actor who I think was extremely underrated. And this movie is just incredible. It's one of those movies that they don't rely a lot on special effects. There's some, prosthetics towards the end, which are kind of necessary, but, CG didn't exist at the time. So it's all, what effects there are all practical. And it's an amazingly scary, violent, but incredibly erotic. There's one scene in particular that my VCR copy of it was really worn out at that point. If you know the movie, you know what I'm talking about. And it's just one of, if not the best vampire movies ever made, in my opinion. And I don't feel like I'm overselling it.
Okay.
Never seen it, but I will.
I haven't either. Yeah.
I will watch it.
This saddens me.
I trust you. I'll watch it. I'll watch it this year.
All right, Scott. What about you? What's your last one?
Well, I'm glad that John put The Frighteners on his list, because I can cite that, and by extension, Lord of the Rings, which was already brought up, to add in a very early entry in Peter Jackson's filmography as a director, and that would be from 1993, Dead Alive.
Oh wow, I haven't thought of that movie for years.
I just remember the cover. Is that the one with the hands are pulling the lips and the teeth?
Yeah, it's the woman's face, and she's over at that, and there's a skull inside there.
Yes.
Yep. It's a great cover to a great movie. It's funny.
Yeah.
It's slapstick. It's gonzo, and even up to now, it's quite possibly the goriest movie that I have ever seen.
That used to be on IFC a lot, when IFC was actually playing movies instead of Two and a Half Men, and without commercials, no less. And I remember that film just being remarkable for its inventiveness. But is that also the one? I'm sorry, with the brunette, Italian brunette actress, as the main I just remember her being like a stunner. So it's like I stayed for her, and then I was amazed by the rest of the film.
Yeah, she's she's absolutely gorgeous. I can't remember her name or where she's from, but I'll bring it up right now.
But I mean,
There's
just
Diana Peñalver.
the absolute gore factor in
Peñalver,
that
yeah.
film.
She's Spanish.
Doesn't
That's what I thought.
I've seen pictures from it. Isn't there a scene where somebody like just takes a lawnmower
Yes,
and grinds
that's what
somebody
I'm
down with it?
thinking of.
That's spoilers. That's the climax of the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it starts off with, because this is a movie that probably a lot of people haven't necessarily seen. So for those who haven't seen it, also be aware that its original title internationally is Brain Dead, but these days it's referred to as Dead Alive. It starts with an expedition, like almost like a safari in Sumatra. Someone is able to capture a Sumatran rat monkey, which is a stop motion creature that looks horrible and gross. And it is put in a zoo in what I'm assuming, because it's Peter Jackson, I'm assuming it's set in New Zealand. This creature gets put in a zoo. An old woman gets scratched and bitten by it through the bars. And the strange property of this rat monkey is that if it bites you, you will die and immediately turn into a zombie. A slowly falling apart, decomposing zombie. And anyone that comes into contact with the zombie will also do the same thing. The old woman who is first infected is the main character's mother. So as he is trying to care for his mother, because he's a big mama's boy, and he is being very strongly, aggressively pursued by the female lead in the movie. There's also a zombie epidemic that is sweeping through the countryside. The main character attempts to, I think that's right, his mother. And okay, I guess no one wants to hear about it.
I'm listening. I'm listening to that.
We're here for you.
Listeners, two of the six panelists on this episode just literally just got up and walked out of their chairs at once. So the main character is attempting to dig up the body of his mother because he knows that she's not dead. He is beset by three punks who are going to beat him up. One of the punks starts urinating on the grave, to which we get one of the great lines in the movie, which is the guy is sitting on the ground looking up at the gang members, says, "That's my mom you're pissing on." And then out of nowhere, a priest shows up and jumps onto one of the taller gravestones, and he's going to defend our main character. Jumps off the gravestone. He's a kung fu master. He kicks ass all three of these bad guys, and that's where we get the line that I introduced myself with at the beginning of this podcast. I kick ass for the Lord. And he just absolutely wrecks these three bad guys. And then he dies. He gets killed. And all three of these gang members and the priest become zombies along with the mother. And our main character is trying to keep the zombie apocalypse under control. So he keeps them all in his basement. Yes, a couple of the zombies decide to have sex with each other. Yes, they give birth to a already pre-undead zombie baby, which the main character has to take to the park for reasons unknown, but it's hilarious.
Okay.
That's what
Fast forward to the end of the movie. You have dozens of zombies in the house, and our main character is just running through the house with a lawnmower held up in front of him, blade first, just plowing through all these zombies in the house. Gallons and gallons of ichor just flowing out from the lawnmower. It's a beautiful scene.
Okay.
Lay down. No, I can't take you out right now. The dog wants to go out.
All right. Well, that's going to draw us to a close. We're going to continue our horror discussion next week when we're going to talk about our favorite horror movies that have come out since the year 2000. But right now we are rapidly approaching the end of our show, and when it's over, you're going to want to head over to patreon.com/infinite potato, where you can become a patron. You can get early access to episodes. You can get special movie commentaries. Our last commentary was The Room. So if you want to watch Rick slowly descend into madness, watch that. And later this month, we're going to be releasing.
Slow. It's not that slow at all.
I was gonna say that.
Later this month, close to Halloween, we're going to be releasing a viewing of Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. So you can get all that for $3 a month, or you can sign up for $5 a month, and you'll get recognition on the show. And at the $10 level, you can be invited on the show from time to time. So special thanks to our producers, who are Bullet Bengal, Tom Corcoran, Del Goodall, Brandon Ushio, and Jeff Hughes. So thank you guys for the help that you give us every month. All right. Thank you guys for being here. Rick, why don't you let everybody know where they can find you?
You can find me elsewhere on the Infinite Potato Alliance. Such shows as Starbase 66 and The Prime Direction, and occasionally on Captain Game Show or that Star Trek podcast, or is there an order? Oh, Open the Iris. Yeah.
Your
Stargate SG1 show. And anywhere else that they don't pay attention to me sneaking in the back door.
Virginia, it's been good to see you again. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on.
Any chance of What You've Never Seen coming back anytime soon?
Probably not.
Okay.
Just gonna be blunt about it. Sorry.
Honesty is the best policy. But those episodes are still on the website. So if you want to hear Virginia's podcast, it's available there at infinitepotato.com. So,
Yes.
Chris, why don't you let everybody know where they can find you?
You can find me as a host on the Quantum Leap podcast. You can look us up at quantumleappodcast.com. We are just about to release our episode about the series finale, Mirror Image. You don't want to miss it. So quantumleappodcast.com. You can get it wherever fine podcasts are given away for free.
John, where can we find you, sir?
You can find me sprinkled throughout the Infinite Potato Alliance, liberally, and most heavily in my own podcast, the Trivia Wordplay podcast of the Infinite Potato Alliance Network, Captain Game Show. All of the fine people here have been and hopefully will again be guests, and more shows will play in the future. I just got to say, Chris is the best at this. I'm like consistently.
The best at what?
The best at like the closing. Like he says his thing. He says like, you know, something funny every time. He references what's going on, but he's like everybody else just kind of stumbles through it. I want to be like Chris when I grow up. That's all I'm saying.
I want to be as clever as John Irons when I grow up.
Scott, where can we find you, sir?
People can find me right here on Cosmic Potato, also quite often on that Star Trek podcast, occasionally on Captain Game Show, not as much as I'd like. Sorry, John, that's on me. And coming soon, you can hear me on my new show, I'd Watch That for $1, where I sit down with a different guest every episode and discuss a film that I purchased on Blu-ray or DVD at my local dollar store. Season 1 is in pre-production right now. If you're tired of listening to me, but you still want to see some of my work, then you can check out some of my graphic artwork found on planetrisecreative.com. That's my website.
Boy, is it graphic?
You see, John,
I was dead alive.
You see, I was doing fine, John. And then other people decide they have to add to my outro. The website recently got a redesign. So if you've seen it before, but not recently, go check it out again. It looks different and there's more content being added to it right now. If you don't want to try to wade through the website, you can look me up on Twitter at Planet Rise.
All right. And if you want to know how to get in touch with the show, just stay tuned. At the end of the show, we'll let you know. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all those places. Just search for Cosmic Potato and we should pop up. So thank you very much for listening today. Be sure to join us next time on Cosmic Potato, the Super Fan Talk podcast, when you might hear John say,
You know, you might have actually heard John say this before. I was going through my notes looking for something for today, and I found some old notes that I've forgotten like a year ago, a couple of years ago. So I'm going to give you 2 or 3, and if you've heard any of them before, I apologize. But they, I think, Halloween themed. Number 1, you know, in Bizarro World, when someone says Candyman 3 times, Willy Wonka appears. I think it's interesting that the word damning with an N means something that you want ruined, but darning, something like socks, means something you want fixed. And damning with 2 M's kind of does both at the same time.
You're not wrong.
Damn right I'm not. Do you ever notice in the supernatural world when a demon adds the A to its title, it's like a promotion. It's like, oh, he's a Damon now. Well, la-di-da. Mr. Damon. And then all the demon hunters are like, oh, we got to get the extra spicy holy water because he's got an A now or something. I don't know. I didn't really finish writing that one out, but that's the bulk of it.